Next, you're out in the desert in a western theme called Mirage Saloon. Haven't seen this one before because this is yet another new level. And yes, you're on an airplane if you're playing as Sonic or Tails. If you're playing as Knuckles, on the other hand, no such thing, you're on dry land and you're on your own. But I'm mostly shifting my focus on the Sonic and Tails version of this, so bear with me, people. Throughout most of the first part of the level, it reminds me a little bit of Sky Chase Zone on Sonic 2. You know, similar looking enemies that are sitting on top of those floating looking turtle-like things. And then these things that get up out of the cacti. Yes, that's the plural word for cactus in case you're wondering. But then there's all sorts of new shit that comes at you, like these flying bird things. But then there's some new features that you haven't seen before in a Sonic game, like chasing down and getting on top of this train. And then you get inside this gun thing, which ain't the last time you'll see one of these, and shoot you right out, back on the plane you go. Then a boss fight with this giant mechanical caterpillar thing. Same goes for when you're playing as Knuckles, except you're on land, but as Tails or Sonic, here you're in the air and you have to fight it, which adds a rather neat 3D look to it if you get what I mean. You just gotta know how to hit him, where to hit him, and, well, keep track of all the different directions that he goes in, because he's a little unpredictable to say the least, but not too hard. Then the next part, whether you're playing as Sonic, Tails, or Knuckles, you're on land no matter what. You got a good variety of things in this part of the level, like pinball flippers, totem poles, giant spinning barrels, these things that when you bounce and ricochet off them, they sound like piano keys, seltzer bottles that when you spray it, you can ride the stream of water almost like a speed-up ramp. And as I mentioned in the previous stage, it wasn't the last time you'll see those guns, because they make a return several times in this stage. And you can go inside of what looks like a bar saloon. Yeah, I guess that's why they call it Mirage Saloon. Hell, you can even go on top of the bar stools and spin around on them. Whee! Yes, that would definitely make me dizzy in real life. And then the boss fight is known as the Heavy Magician, where he, just as the name says, puts on a magic show where he transforms into 3 different bandits. Yes, if you paid close attention and saw in the background throughout this level, you would have seen wanted posters for 3 of these bandits, which are the ones he transforms into. And each one does their own little trick. One shoots you with basic projectile bullets, another one throws bombs at you, and then the other one makes shit fall from above. So, you gotta hit him in those forms, and then in his regular form, and then it's time to put an end to his act. Next stop is Oil Ocean. Yep, from one Sonic 2 level to another. First part isn't too hard. You have most of the familiar aspects, like all the same enemies pretty much. You got those platforms that get flung up in the air with the spikes in the bottom. You got these round things that suck you up and then push you into one and then another after another. You got the quicksand like oil at the bottom. I mean, it wouldn't be called Oil Ocean for nothing. And you even get the slippery oil on top of the surface. But if you get the fire shield, this is really cool. If you touch whether it's the quicksand like oil or the slippery surface oil, it creates an oil fire effect. It's only for show. It doesn't really do much else otherwise, but it's pretty cool. The newest cool feature in this stage is that you can go inside of the submarine, something you definitely haven't seen in Sonic 2, or any Sonic games in the past that I recall. First boss fight isn't really too hard. It's just this floating robotic utility guy. Hit him a couple times, watch the wrench he throws, and get into the middle platforms when they go up. Because obviously if you don't, you'll get hit by the ceiling spikes. Now the second stage, oh boy, get ready for a real challenge. Because not only you have to make your way through the level, you have to get on top of and pull the switch down every time the level starts to fog up and look like this. No, there's no problems with my game or TV or contrasting or anything. This is what happens when you wait too long to pull that switch down. Oil starts building up and eventually it gets all gassy and hazardous as you start losing rings. Yeah, sound familiar? Yep. You answered correctly if you said inside the pyramid stage in Sonic and Knuckles, except that one it was all just worrying about the ghosts and having to get rid of them by turning the light on. Here, it's about getting rid of the hazardous oil vapor and cleaning up the air. And the boss fight? Man, let me just say, I had the hardest time with this one. I mean, the only comforting thing to note is that a lot of people have seemed to share my frustration with this one. So, where do I begin with this one? Well, Let's just say it's a near identical clone to the one in Sonic 2 on Oil Ocean stage. Yeah, pretty appropriate, right? Except a bit harder. Yeah, that one was challenging too. But this one, I think, was even worse. Died way too many times than I can count. And, well, okay. It starts out with Dr. Robotnik and this big octopus-like thing. Unlike the original game where it's just him by himself in a submarine, no, here he's in a big octopus-like thing, as I said before. Not to mention these two tentacle things come up, take the middle platform out, and start trying to shoot you with projectiles. Which, actually, they almost look like part of that boss fight and the first stage of Lava Reef Zone in Sonic & Knuckles. Yeah, pretty much a straight-up perfect resemblance right there. You don't have to take them out, but it just makes it easier, considering they shoot projectiles at you. But mainly, your focus is taking Dr. Robotnik's octopus-looking ship out, like I said before, but while avoiding the projectiles, yep, it's much easier said than done, trust me. But what makes it worse is, these things take the middle platform out, and the only way to really be able to hit Dr. Robotnik's ship is to obviously go in the oil. So a lot of times, you may sink in the oil and may not be able to get back up onto the platform, if you don't time your jumps properly. And then at random times, sometimes the big thing can come out of the ground, but you have to dodge, can't do anything to it, and that other thing comes out and tries to zap you. Whether it's at a higher spot, or zap the ground, you have to dodge the shot and can't do anything about it. But another problem with this that makes it really frustrating is that every time I get hit, a lot of times I lose my rings and can't get them back. So, it takes a lot of patience to beat this son of a bitch. I mean, I'm not kidding when I say this is one of the hardest bosses in this whole game. So if you manage to actually beat him, next stop is the Lava Reef Zone right out of Sonic & Knuckles. Yeah, it should seem like a familiar journey to the center of the Earth, at least that's what it reminds me of, since, you know, you're underground, lava, fire, all sorts of hazards, which should seem familiar if you played Sonic & Knuckles. Though the first boss fight should seem familiar, though it's not the same as the one in Sonic & Knuckles. No, it's that big rock-grinding machine thing that you come across about halfway through the level, in both Sonic & Knuckles and this game. Yep, it becomes a boss fight here. I guess because they already used it as part of the Oil Ocean boss fight at the end, they didn't want to reuse it again in this level right after. So, okay, acceptable. Little variety doesn't hurt there. And it's a pretty decent challenge. And then even the second part is like Sonic & Knuckles, where all the rocks turn to crystal-like things. And you get a few new things added in there, one of them being these conveyor belt things, that depending on which direction it's pointing, that's the direction it moves and helps you boost. And yes, you could switch the direction of it too as well. I should also add it definitely helps to have the fire shield in both stages in this level, but you probably already know that. And not to mention, almost like Mirage Saloon, if you're playing as Sonic or Tails, you get a different second act than you would if you were playing this as Knuckles. Because you get two different boss fights. Knuckles gets a boss fight called the Heavy King, who uses the power of the giant emerald. He hovers around and unleashes all sorts of projectiles and shit at you, but he's not too hard. Sonic and Tails, on the other hand, get this boss called Heavy Rider, which, like the sound of his name, rides around on this ladybug-looking motorcycle thing, while swinging a mace around several times. Sometimes he'll jump up the ramps in the backgrounds, and other times he'll set off the big lava things in the middle. And then sometimes he'll go speeding by without the mace, leaving fire trails behind. So, not too hard taking this Evel Knievel out either. But whether you're playing this as Knuckles, Sonic, or Tails, either way, the next zone is Metallic Madness Zone. Yep, another Sonic CD stage. With some familiar elements returning, as well as a bunch of new ones. Sadly though, no time travel. Not even between Acts 1 and 2. Though there are some new features which are pretty cool, like when you jump on top of the seesaw thing, it flings you into the background. Almost kinda reminds me of the level on Donkey Kong Country Returns a little bit. And yes, you can go back to the regular foreground section too. And another cool feature is when you walk into this shrink ray thing, it shrinks you and you can fit into smaller spaces. The first boss fight is taken right out of the final zone, yep, the last boss fight in the first Sonic game, the one that started it all. Next one, you're shrunken down, and Dr. Robotnik is inside of this floating gashapon looking thing. Yeah, you know, those little toy vending machine things that you see at the store. You hit the thing to dispense a random item, which sometimes it's an exploding robotic Amy doll, or it could be a miniaturized Dr. Robotnik throwback from Sonic 1 and 2. Basically, you just gotta unleash them all, kill them all, and then when he's got nothing left, he throws fireballs, and then just hit him once and he's done. Then next, finally, is not the Death Egg Zone, but called the Titanic Monarch Zone. Not a ship on the ocean, but almost resembling the Death Egg-like ship, with all sorts of contraptions and things to try to kill you. Yeah, well, it's nothing out of the ordinary throughout most of the game, but this time Dr. Robotnik really means business. And the first boss is none other than the Crimson Eye, which, like the name says, you have to try to hit the eye to defeat it, while also avoiding the orb-like things that revolve around him. Yeah, every time you hit his eye, one of course breaks and a bunch of pins and stuff come flying out. And I find it really difficult to stop losing my rings, but as long as I keep getting one or two of them back, I'm perfectly okay. The second part is where it really gets tricky, and then he keeps activating the gravity field. Sometimes he's on the ceiling, and the jumping and everything can really throw you off quite a bit. Just gotta keep hitting him according to how the gravity field is being activated, if you get what I mean. Then the second part, holy shit, this is where it really ups the difficulty. Because first, the level. You gotta know how to beat this whole level through. I mean, it's a freaking maze if you don't know how to beat it the correct way. And how you beat it, well, as soon as you get to this part, and you have to go through all 4 of these, exhausting each one, and you have to make sure you're going the correct way, which leads you to a mist. If you go the wrong way, you may end up cycling through the same parts, eventually running the timer out. So make sure you stock up on extra lives too, because you'll definitely need them. So yeah, this is a pretty damn long level. It's cruel, and it's tedious, but when you finally reach the last boss, if you only have 1 life left, man, your chances of beating this guy, unless you're a Sonic Mania god, you're pretty much up shit's creek without a paddle. Because this guy, of course, is on a bunch of electric tentacles. Don't ever hit them when they're electrified, because you'll lose your rings, and if you do not get one back, well, you're as good as screwed then. At least in that phase of the fight. And yep, I do say that phase of the fight, because he doesn't just fight you individually. He grabs you with one of his hands and sends you through various parts with his many minions to try to fight them, or basically dodge them, in other words. And luckily, when you come across 1 or 2 of them, which thankfully are courteous enough to have rings lying around, get them while you can, because you'll need them. Because the other ones, they don't give you them. This freaking guy I had the worst time with. I kept getting hit. So make sure you take at least 1 or 2 tentacles out when the timing is right at that very split second. Because then it will be easier to maneuver and take the remaining ones out and not get shocked. Because you got a very small window while he's not electrified. And trust me when I say, patience is key with this one. Don't screw up, otherwise it would really suck to have to do this level all over again. So, if you manage to beat him, then bravo, you beat the game at least on Mania mode. I'm well aware there's also various other modes of gameplay, but I just wanted to give you the fine genuine impression of this game and what I think of the gameplay and everything like that, and I think I've said enough. This game has plenty to offer. For nostalgia fans especially like myself who grew up with the classic Sonic games when they were at their finest before they pretty much went to shit, I'm definitely satisfied. It brings in a lot of nostalgia as well as mixes in some new elements, and keeps it fresh and original, but some may complain they're playing it a little too safe. But then again, when they take chances and try new things, it feels a little alienating. So I can't say I'm disappointed. It would have been nice to add more things into this game and make it a little more lengthier, but for $20, it's not bad at all. At least that's the price I paid when it was brand new before the physical release. So, if you're an old school Sonic fan and you happen to have Nintendo Switch, PS4, or Xbox One, but you already know off the bat I'd recommend going for the Switch version, because like I said several times before, it's not only great for being able to play at home, but also on the go. It's definitely a great trip down memory lane, as well as some new stuff added in to make it a real love letter for Sonic fans. So, my final verdict is, rockin' Wii Remote will be Motion Plus up, and the Playing Wii Remote up. Trust me, for old school fans, you won't be disappointed. So, till next time, happy gaming.